Welcome along to another episode of the Make Life Work podcast, the home edition. So this week I've asked along a good old friend, Stephen Turvey-Wright. So Stephen and I go right back into my previous job. I've worked with him for several years, worked with him directly on a few things as well, which we'll go into a little bit more. Stephen's also a fellow Derby County fan, born and bred, I guess, from Derby as well. And he also travels down to London from the Midlands, like myself. So there's probably going to be plenty of overlap with how we are coping right now. Time to get on with it, I guess. How are you doing, Stephen?
Yeah, not bad. We'll clear up that I am actually born and bred on the Isle of Wight, 20 years. I moved to Derby 16 years ago. So I've managed to hide amongst you fellow Darbarians so well, in fact, that you thought I was from Derby, so I guess I'm doing something right to be accepted.
The accent comes out, the dialect occasionally, all right, me duck, you know.
It happens, yeah. It depends on what mood I'm in, how tired I am, if I'm hungry or not. If I've had a beer, you either get "Hey up me duck" or "You all right, mate, how you doing?" So the dialect is quite loose. What's weird is when I say "Hey up me duck," but I say it in a southern accent, and that does freak people out.
I concur. I think with my mix of Birmingham background, Derby heritage, and working in London a lot, my accent is everywhere. It's crazy. So let's tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do in your day-to-day job.
Yeah, so I work for ASOS, which is where we work together. I am an incident and problem manager, based on the fact that this is a tech-based podcast. I'm often seen as the gatekeeper or the conduit of information between customer and tech within service management. I've been with ASOS coming up to 5 years. I've been an incident manager for nearly 9, and started on the service desk and worked my way up, really.
So you've been a lot more hands-on from a customer perspective rather than from a tech perspective, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. When I had my interview for my service desk job years and years and years ago, I was asked what I know about computers, and I basically said, I can play Football Manager, and I'm really good at it. But the reason that I was brought in was more on my customer experience background, growing up, working in pubs and restaurants and things like that. And it was just a case of, I'm not going to be a rock and roll star, and I can't be a barman all my life. So let's try and find a, inverted commas, proper job.
Well, you did in 5 years coming, by the sound of it as well. That's a hell of an achievement, especially in tech in London.
Yeah, it's been a long old trek. I didn't really know what I was doing. I was offered a redundancy following a relocation for the company that I worked in Derby, and just thought it was an opportunity to look at other things, look at a different pace of life. There's always been a bit of an ambition to move to London, and it was something that was in the pipeline with going for the job in London, and it didn't come to fruition, but I've got that balance of my London life and my Derby life. So adjusting to working from home, albeit the 8 or 9 weeks it's been, has been a bit of a shock for me, really.
So we might go straight into that then. So when lockdown came, were you already remote working, or was it kind of as it happened?
So I kind of split my time between London and Derby, both commuting and staying down. Stay down with friends 2 or 3 nights a week, work from home once a week, and then back to Derby if ever there's a football match or a run out of clean clothes in my bag. So I was splitting my time quite effectively. I still always consider myself to live in Derby, and I've never cancelled my season ticket. You know, the house is in Derby. So it was a happy combination of the two. I was either in London all the time in the office and then heading back home, or, you know, commuting and working remotely. So it was kind of a 1 or 2 days a week working from home anyway. That's the process that we've got, and they, you know, they've encouraged working remotely on the odd occasion. So it was just a case of ramping that up, really, when we went into this new situation.
And how are you finding it now that did you say 8 weeks now that you've been at home?
So I'm someone that likes to keep busy. I found myself finding more things to do, work related, when I've been at home than I have when I'm in the office. In the office, it's easy to pop over and have a chat to somebody, even if it's not work related, it's always good for your office persona, or your perception is to be outgoing and speak to people. But without having that, you've got to find yourself a little bit more to do. I work on call. That's increased a little bit more over the past couple of weeks. Just been covering other folk, just in order to keep myself busy, keep myself switched on, and make sure that I'm occupied in my head. Because for me, the mental state of myself, really, my own mental well-being, I have to be busy, I have to be occupied. I'm often an overthinker, so if I don't have anything to overthink because I'm busy, then I'm fine, really.
Okay, so I know that other people at ASOS have been offered furlough. Obviously it's everyone's each to their own, but would that have actually satisfied you, or would you prefer to have, I don't know, you tell me, how do you feel about that?
I couldn't be furloughed. I thought about this, and would I take it? I've had friends who have been offered it and they've loved every moment of it. They've taken up hobbies, or a really good friend of mine, he used to be a carpenter and he's moved into health and safety. He's been furloughed by his job, and the amount of stuff he's done around the house, he's made drawers out of 2-foot spaces underneath stairs. He's made bars. He's made bird cages. He's the amount of wood he's got through. It suited him. But for myself, I would really have to stay focused, and I think I would bore myself to death if I was furloughed. I've got a week's annual leave next week. I was meant to be going away, and I'm already looking at what I can do to occupy myself. There's a fence that needs painting. I've even been wondering if I can dig up the garden and do the patio myself, much against my own judgment, because I've never used a spade in my life. I keep saying I need to buy a drill. I've never drilled a hole in my life. So come back in a couple of weeks and see how the house is looking and see how my mental state is looking, and then we can say that. But I do think I would have struggled personally if I was furloughed. I'm not that kind of guy. I don't get bored in my own company, but there's work Steve and there's home Steve, and they are very different people. And I think it would have been hard to have switched off one or the other for a long period of time.
I know from working with you, you're quite a proactive person. You're not someone to sit on your laurels or just be bored or complacent in your role. You'll be up and about trying to make sure things are in good shape. And it's in your persona as well. That's full of energy when you do it, right? It's not like don't worry about it. It'll be fine. You are pretty much, no, hang on. How do we preempt this next time as well? So I feel like, you like you say, I'd be like you. I'd be bored. I wouldn't be able to sit there just reading, chilling, watching TV. People are saying I've got through so many box sets through this lockdown. That sounds like my nightmare. I'll be like, give me something to do.
I can relate to that, because one habit I have found myself, and I don't normally do it when I work from home, but knowing that I'm working home for a prolonged period, I have had the TV on in the background, and I've tried to make sure it's been nothing too intense. So I've got through so much Taskmaster just watching it in the background.
Good choice.
Sometimes I'll be sat there thinking, how would I do that? I was watching Paul Chowdhury pop some balloons on a washing line, and I was thinking, how would I do that differently? And that's kind of become the thing. So, sat working, because my role is a reactive role in as much that we run major incidents if there are any. If there aren't any, it's trying to keep yourself busy. So I do find myself having to run 2 or 3 at a time and being really under the cosh. And this is within the office as well. So if I've got 2 or 3 incidents, I'm allowed. I say allowed. It's not frowned upon if I then have an hour just respite and breathe. And I will go and relax. And like I say, I will put myself out there and have a chat about stuff to take my mind off it.
You have to. I mean, if you were in the office, you would not be sitting on your computer doing work for 9 hours straight. You would be getting up, go to the toilet, go to get a drink, and chat to someone on the way back. So having some, background noise with Paul Chowdhury talking about popping balloons, it's probably not a bad thing, to be fair. And it's a lot more cheerful than the news, let's say.
Yeah, that's one thing I have done. I used to be big into watching the news, not in a sit down and the whole family if my imaginary family, I haven't got a family, but if I had them, they'd all be sat. It's just, I've turned that off. I've turned the news off. There are updates every day, and we get told a lot of stuff that doesn't change anything. So I have really kind of condensed my news watching, not in a negative way. It's not that I don't believe the news or I don't appreciate it, but it's one thing I've really done. I think for my own sanity, I've kind of shut that element of the outside world out.
I've been exactly the same. It didn't even happen at COVID time. It was probably 6 months ago. I found, like, even on the commute back into the office, in the car, Radio 4 would come on with the news, and it would just be complete negative, irate, angry politics. It did me no good. So I just ended up turning it off, listening to Radio 2, some twee phone in from a family member saying, "Can you say happy birthday to my nan?" So much more cheerful though, right?
Yeah, you often find as well that those kind of news broadcasts, there's never any good news.
No.
It's bad news or no news, but they always have to make news. So how good would it be if you just had the 6 o'clock, you had the bong, and then you had Hugh, just sat there saying, "No news today, guys," and that's good news.
Look, there's a cat jumping around a fence. That's more news, right?
Trevor McDonald, and finally.
That'd be wonderful.
I want a day where the 6 o'clock news starts and finally and goes beyond ridiculous afterwards, because nothing bad's happened and they haven't even been able to make anything bad up. That would make me happy.
Or it's not exactly news because it's the same every day at the moment. So here's some actual news. Someone's done something wonderful for someone else,
Yeah, I've got this theory that something happens and it stays in the news for no longer than 7.4 days. Do you remember that dam in Derbyshire that was all set to burst, and Boris came up and put his hard hat on, and there were cameras everywhere. We don't know if that dam burst or not. We don't even know if that village is real, but it was there and it happened. And Australia's bushfires as well. Are they still going? Have they turned it into a barbecue? No one actually. There's this rule, and I said, and this is probably the second most foolish thing I've ever predicted. I said, "Oh, don't worry about COVID. It'll be done in 7.4 days." And here we are, 7.4 weeks later. It just gets you down, doesn't it? So yeah, turn that off. We don't need someone else to bring us down. There's enough going on in the house to potentially knock yourself down anyway.
Exactly. You mentioned earlier your family arrangements. So you're living on your own, or have you got your partner with you? How's it working at the moment?
So a complicated one for me.
Right.
My fiance and I split, and we've kept the house together. So obviously, with me splitting my time between London and Derby, there was enough respite. We've kind of been thrown together again under lockdown. We get on as mates, which is really, really good. She's currently downstairs working still, and I, book meetings in the kitchen so that I can make a cup of coffee when she's out of her meetings and stuff like that. It's been fine. It's been amicable.
That's good.
It is a weird one. I was listening to the podcast you did last week, and I was sat there going, it's quite similar, this. The music, yeah. The love of beer, yeah. The living situation, similar, close. And I was like, he's going to have a carbon copy. So
oh no,
I have to keep it slightly different. So yeah, I'm separated, but we still live together.
That must be interesting, because you make a point. You've got to share this space with your partner, right? While we're all trying to work normally. My wife's a teacher. She's downstairs right now recording some content for a lesson. And I'm like, well, I'll have to disappear upstairs and then book in. We're trying to coordinate our calendars to make sure we're not clashing too much. It's becoming a logistical nightmare some days. Yeah,
and I think the one thing that comes that I won't miss is that burning question is, what's for lunch?
The same old.
I've got this, there's a group of lads at work, probably about 5 or 6 of us. Any 2 or 3 of us in a Venn diagram at any given time all want the same thing, whether it's a Greek or a burger or a pizza. So, we just say, go in here for lunch, anyone come in. And every single day, what's for lunch? And I'm bored of omelettes as well. I love an omelette, but yeah, it's just the easiest and quickest thing to. I've got a meeting in 10 minutes. I'll make an omelette then.
Yeah, what's quick and easy? I had to do the same today. I had a meeting around lunchtime as well. Someone put it in. And I had to go to the co-op. I was like, I need to get some milk, I need to get some bread, I need some essentials. And then I had to run back and make it. So I literally just went, gosh, there you go, quick sandwich, and then back in the meeting.
Yeah, I'm just going to put on record that people that put meetings in between the hours of 12 till 12:30, 12 till 1:30 are the worst people in the world.
I mean, I appreciate it's difficult to coordinate sometimes, but it should just be blanket. No, you just don't do lunchtime meetings. Or if you do, going, I'm expecting to decline. If not, thanks ever so much.
I've actually had it where people have put in a meeting at 8 o'clock in the morning the night before, after I've finished work, and I don't start until 9. And, oh, were you not on the meeting this morning? I still hate the people that put meetings at 12 o'clock in more than that. I've got a genuine valid excuse then. I can say, oh, I'm really sorry, I didn't see your meeting invite because it came after hours and the meeting started before I started work. So I am really sorry, I didn't see it. People who put meetings in it, they know.
They should know.
It's the only time I had free. Well, there's a reason it was the only time everyone had free. It's because they want to go to the pub and have a cheeky pint because they've had a real day from hell and they don't want to be in the office at 12:30. So that's why it's free in everyone's diaries. Yeah, I'm a firm believer that there's a special corner in hell for people who put meeting rooms.
Oh, mate, I empathise on that. So we've talked a little bit about work, what you're trying to do at the moment, your personal sort of setup. What do you think is going to come next? You know, what do you think will be the best next guest for you after, you know, yesterday's announcement, for example?
So for me, I think the one thing that I'm not sure, I'm scared and excited in equal measures about this phrase that's being bandied around, the new normal. I've never been part of the old normal. So it will be interesting to see how people subscribe and sign up and get on board with this new normal, because it's happening in our lifetime. You know, there's been a slow evolution, how things have changed. You know, I've gone from working in a managed service provider where there's strict SLAs and, you know, client adherence, to working for a company as fun and flexible as ASOS. And there's the evolution of things, but I think to have this massive change in one go will be a massive shock to the system. There's been a seamless move for myself personally, and to the majority of people I've spoken to, both friends and colleagues, about working remotely. What does work for some doesn't work for others, but for going forwards, I think the one thing I can see is potentially either a little bit more flexibility with the remote working. All I want to start seeing now is all these people that spend hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds on big pointless ornaments for their reception in their massive offices that they use to impress everybody. They'll be looking at that now and saying, half of our workforce is at home. So they're not going to see this dolphin carrying a border collie whilst looking at a photograph of Gordon Ramsay. But there they are. You go around Liverpool Street and you just have a little sneaky look into some of these offices, and there's 1,000 marbles held up by string. You know, I think that will change. I think that will change a hell of a lot. I think the office space will become a lot more, your favourite word from us working together, a lot more agile.
Oh yeah.
And I thought you'd like that. But I think once this is all gone and we are back to the new normal, having your own desk will be a thing of the past. Hot desking will become the thing. And if we are affording 20, 30, 40% of our workforce to work from home, you've got to be looking at space and what you're doing with that space and how you're utilising that. We're making a lot of changes to meeting rooms at the moment. We've never had enough meeting rooms. And with the position of coming back in with social distancing, we've got too many meeting rooms. I can't see how that will be the case forever, because companies will continue to grow. But space will be the big one, I think. And social interaction as well. We've been looking at various different options for rotas for coming back into the office. And I've worked out that there's a certain person on a different shift that means I won't ever see them.
Oh no!
And we work in the same team. It's one of the options, you know. It's not set in stone, but if you think about I'll do even weeks and your chapters odd weeks, you'll never get to see each other, and it'd be interesting to see how that would work. But all in all, I think what's next is I think there'll be more consideration to personal life coming out of this. I'm quite fortunate in that if I do require working from home for a day or two, it isn't questioned. I'll say to my boss, can I work from home? And in the back of my head, because I overthink things and I second guess things, I'm sat there thinking, right, I need it for this, this, and this, or I've got an order coming that I have to sign for, or I'm going to the dentist and I've got as close as I can to the beginning of the day or the end of the day, and I need to work from home. And I'm always second guessing and I'm second thinking it. And I'm quite fortunate that my boss now, I say, can I work from home for a couple of days? And he'll say yes. And I'm sat there going, I had a really good reason. I was about to say excuse, but it's always a reason. I had a really good reason for wanting to work from home. And for me, I'm quite fortunate, but there will be people that aren't in that position. And I think I'd like to think that consideration for humanity and personal need,
well-being,
need and well-being will really come out of this. It'd be nice. We've all had to go through this. It'd be nice if that was a real positive thing to come out of it.
I think you're right. I mean, I'm always the optimist that the good will come out of all these things, right? And we know reality is not that shiny, let's say. But I think a lot of people are becoming more savvy to the fact that this is not social norms at the moment at all. We have not done this ever before, where you're not allowed to touch your friends like in a huggy way. You're not allowed to kiss your family or any of that stuff. It's just crazy times. I mean, I was at the supermarket yesterday. Some people completely ignore those social norms and just get right behind you, even though I'm wearing a face mask and gloves. All this is weird. Why is this even a thing now? But we are going to have to be more aware, I think, and it's going to take a while before we get back to a reasonable norm, as we call it.
That's one thing I really want to keep as well. You know, I went to a funeral whilst we've been in lockdown. It was one of my good friends. His mum passed away. I was just as much there for him as anything else. And there was a few of us, and instead of all shaking hands, we bumped elbows. And I'm keeping that. You'll see me in 30 years, and someone goes to shake my hand, I'll be bumping it. You know, do you remember the great COVID 2020? and shopping as well. I like it. I mean, I like having a bit of space. I do that thing where I feel really. I did it today. That thing where I went down one aisle and it's all one way, and I got halfway down and I realised I'd forgotten something. And I had to go back round, and I was like, oh, and I had to, nod to the person that stood at the door giving out hand sanitizer. I was like, oh, silly me. I've had to go. Oh, you forgot the chorizo. And
the classic.
Make a real gesture of having to go back, and I don't mind that. I think there are people who've complained about it, but I live on a new build estate, and we have a co-op on the estate as well. And we've got a proper Wisteria Facebook group where half the people will be complaining about the fireworks that are going off, and the other half will be celebrating them. And there was somebody mentioned it a couple of days ago that somebody was giving grief to one of the workers in the co-op, and it kind of really, really got to me and really frustrated me. So I went in today just to get my lunch. I think we do a big shop once a week, and then we fetch bits as and when. That's changed as well. Big shops have massively changed since we've been in this. But
the big shop, yeah, same. And I'm doing it for 3 families now. I've got the in-laws and I've got my own parents down the end of the street. So I'm filling 2 trolleys every 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's crazy as well. I can't be trusted. I pop in for some lunch. I think I went in the other day to get some bits for lunch, and I'd spent 70 quid on booze because the sun was shining. So I can't be trusted. So I'm not allowed to go in. But to go back to the story, it was just hearing about these guys in the co-op getting grief, and it really, really got to me and annoyed me. So today, whilst I was at the counter, and I'm not saying it for any other reason other than just trying to appreciate what other people are doing. I just went and got them some heroes and some roses, and I went to pay for them. And as I walked away, I went, "They're for you." Pop them in the staff room, and it's nice just to remind people that they are doing a brilliant job. And there's a couple of idiots that will ruin it for everyone, but there's enough goodness in humanity. And you said you're an optimist. I'm a proper pessimistic realist, but I can still see genuine good. And yeah, it's nice just to remind other people that they're doing that as well sometimes, I guess.
You made a point, though, that the culture is divided, unfortunately. We're going to have the good and the bad. And it's normally the exceptions to the rule that ruin it for everyone else, right? Yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic, let's say, about what can come out of all this, but time will only tell.
Yeah, I think that's all it is, isn't it? This too shall pass, and life goes on, and every other cliche there is. But those two for me are the two that are proper getting me through. You know, this too shall pass, and you get busy living or you get busy dying. So try and make them I'm trying to get as many cliches in as I can, unintentionally.
That's enough.
It's more than that. I haven't said blue sky thinking yet. So.
Oh, don't go there. No synergies either.
No.
We talked a lot about like work and sort of how you've been coping, but you did mention earlier you're taking a week off next week. So what are you doing to kind of just enjoy your downtime? It's good that you've actually booked some time out, even if you can't go away. What have you got planned? What do you think you can do to, wind down?
I don't know, really. There's been a couple of things, like I said earlier. There's a fence that needs painting. I've signed up to a fitness and a health thing. It's a 21-day challenge. It's me v me, so it's all at your own pace. And it's just a case of being conscious of what you eat, drink, increasing your exercise levels. So I'm going into, this is currently day 1 of week 2. So for me, my last week will be my week on annual leave. So I think I'm really going to try and hit that and up my game. I've got no motivation to maintain fitness. As far as I'm concerned, I hung my football boots up 18 months ago, and I was going to be one of those guys that in 5 years sits on a beach in Greece, with a big beer belly, sat there going, all bought and paid for, mate. But I decided that I wasn't ready for that yet. And I've struggled with, that's something that I've really struggled with within lockdown, is eating healthily. It's easy to have a glass of wine or a beer or a bottle of Aperol, which I accidentally drank whilst I was sat quizzing with the lads. So yeah, I made a conscious decision, hopefully looking at the 3-week timetable for lockdown, it'd be nice to come out of it feeling as if I've accomplished something. So focusing on that, I imagine.
And what about entertainment? What are you kind of enjoying, just to keep the evenings more enjoyable?
I've done so much whilst we've been in lockdown. I think probably the first weekend of lockdown, I posted on my Instagram saying, give me some challenges. And I opened it up to all of my followers, just saying, tell me what to do. And as long as it doesn't involve, if we remember when it was going back to the absolute lack of toilet roll, eggs, everything. And, there were people that, I made a joke of it. I'll not waste food. I like my food, and it's hard to waste food. And I'll not do anything that will put me in hospital or make me be a burden on the NHS. And some of the suggestions I got were amazing. And I really enjoyed it, because you'd see it and it'd pop up and it would say, Charlotte says, do a backflip. Now, I'm 36 years old. I don't think I've ever been able to do a backflip. So I tried, and I sat in the garden, and I sat in the garden. I stood in the garden and I tried to do a backflip. I failed miserably. I remember that I used to be able to do a handspring, so I did that and got air. Things like putting on all your clothes in the wardrobe, learning one of my favourite things, and this is the biggest injustice of lockdown, was I learned the dance for Iceland's Eurovision Song Contest entry. If you've not heard it, it's an absolute banger. It's one of the best songs I've ever heard in my life.
Oh, mate, we're going to have to cut this in momentarily and get it in the show notes as well. But
it's about the singer's kid, and the words are so pure and so beautiful. But it's just such a decent bop as well. The dance is as catchy as all hell, and they can't use it next year because that's the rules. So, forget Liverpool not winning the league this season. Iceland not winning Eurovision is the biggest injustice in lockdown. So yeah, I had to learn that. What else did I do? Things like putting a cracker on my forehead and eating it without touching my hands. All the classics.
The classics.
Doing keepy ups with toilet roll, and I had to just keep myself busy and entertained. And I broke our bin whilst trying to hit a football into it. So another reason why I hung my boots up. So that was.
That's like you being quite creative with your time. I don't think we'd ever be this creative before lockdown.
No, 100%. And as well, there's I don't know if you've seen it on Instagram, it's doing the rounds at the moment, but the 30-day music challenge, where there's 30 different song suggestions and you have to pick one.
Right, yeah. I've seen the 10-day. I didn't realise it was the 30-day one.
Yeah, so I did that for April, and the challenge I set myself, as well as picking a song, was that I had to learn a song that was relevant to the challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Song that I'd never learnt before. So I'd sit in my man cave, finish work, grab the guitar, and learn the song. So a song with a colour in the title, and I picked Back to Black by Amy Winehouse. I've never played it before in my life. Could never give it any justice, in as much that she's got one of the most amazing voices in the world. But because I did this challenge, it gave me an excuse to do it. So I learnt that, and then there was a song about wishing you'd forget somebody, so I did Bye 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 by NSYNC, and it's a song that I'd never ever pick. So that was quite fun. And yeah, just quizzes, a lot of quizzes. I've hosted quizzes for work, for social. I've partaken in quizzes. I get tagged in quizzes on Facebook, everything football related. I'm a bit of a football buff.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm the one to beat between all of our mates. And yeah, a lot of quizzes. The book that I've written the notes down in, there's 7 pages of, I mean, I've got Sean Massey, Hernan Crespo, Joe Cole, Juan Mata, you know, just random names. Shaka Hislop's in there, you know, just for no reason. You know, I'm looking through it now. Contagion, What a Wonderful World by Louis Armstrong. Just trying to find all these different, Lemon, Pinot Noir, Circle and District. So I'm either learning things or proving how daft I am.
Well, you've made a point there, actually, because you're in a band, right? So what the hell are you doing at the moment with your band? Are you actually doing much to prepare, or just what?
We've taken a bit of time out prior to this with our singer having a baby girl. We've never been too into it. We don't take on the role of being in a band as such. We're just 2 guys that get together, and every now and then we'll write some songs, we'll make an album, we'll go out and tour that album, we'll make some videos for the singles, and then we'll get on with our life. You know, I used to walk around saying that I was in a band and that I was going to be famous when I was on the service desk for DSA and Derby City Council. So it was always, my job was secondary, and when I realised I wasn't going to make it, I kind of, you know, the band changed and the dynamic of it changed. I'm my mate's guitarist now, and I'm happy with that. And I've always been that without realising. So, you know, we're still writing. The writing process is quite unique to my limitations. He'll write a song with 4 or 5 chords and some hooks in it, and then he'll give the song to me. I'll polish it and finish it off, give it back to him, and then we'll go and record it. So right now we're in the process of finishing the second part of the album. So he's working on his bits, and every now and then sending them to me and saying, you know, what do you think of this? And I've never said I don't like it, because I think he's such a good songwriter. So it's fairly easy for him and me, and it's a convenient way to write songs. So it's my turn to have a break at the moment whilst he works on the basis of the next 6 songs.
So you're not really missing out too much. It's just sort of adapting to the current situation, I guess, as well as the singer's baby.
Yeah. I mean, she's the most beautiful little girl I've ever seen in my life. So that's fine. I didn't mind taking a sabbatical for.
You'll allow it.
And watching her grow, you know, as well, has been amazing. It's probably as close as I've got or I've had to that myself. So, you know, she's his daughter, but in our circle of friends, she's all of our daughter. You know, she's
proper Uncle Stephen.
Yeah, and it's mad. So yeah, I mean, we've been writing songs for her as well.
Oh, cute, nice.
So, you know, the last single on the album that was about her was called My Favourite Summer, because she was born in June. And as I said, Gareth had written his part, or he'd written the song and then passed it to me, and I had to write my part. And I'd never felt pressure to put something together for a song, because it's a song and it's my part. And if I write it and it doesn't work, I can change it slightly. But I felt an immense pressure and real attention to detail of making sure I got this one right, because it was about his daughter, and it was hard, and I ended up going for and I remember I ended up going for kind of like a Wurlitzer fairground vibe. And it was really what me and my singer did when we were young. We used to go down the local rec, and there was always a fairground there, and it just reminded us of our childhood and stuff like that. So it was fun. I'm looking forward to getting them, and hopefully, I say hopefully, if the lockdown is extended past this next extension, I'll have them for then, and I'll have something to crack on with. And it'll be a real nice way to come out of lockdown, is knowing that we've achieved something that is actually tangible and there for all to see, because that's what we do. We don't write, I don't write music in the hope that it gets picked up by Radio 1 anymore. I write it so that in 16, 17 years time, or however many years it is, I can turn around to my kids and annoy them and say, do you remember Dad was in a band and on a Sunday just played my own album, and just have drawers full of my own CDs and stuff like that.
That's exactly why we do it. My son hates the fact I make a podcast. He's like, I can't listen to you, Dad. It's embarrassing. He's 13. He knows how bad it can get.
And then in 10, 15 years time, when he's at his wedding, we'll do it in a podcast.
We'll do a wedding edition. Brilliant. Right. I think we've run out of time, mate, but it's been an absolute pleasure having a chat. Is there any way you want people to connect with you online, or any parting message you have for anyone that's listening?
I think it's just, what we said before is just life goes on. Mm-hmm. That's it, isn't it? And if you have that mentality, then you'll be all right.
Succinct, but very powerful.
This too shall pass.
That's your catchphrase.
Yeah, it's not when I'm working, but I think it's become.
It can't be when you're working, no.
No, that's no challenge should be faced without a little charm and a lot of style.
Oh, well said, my friend. Well, mate, thanks ever so much for coming along. It's been a pleasure to catch up. It's been too long.
And you, appreciate it.
And we shall reconvene at some point.
Yes. Take care, chap.
And you, buddy.